When Mecole Hardman was drafted out of Georgia, we all saw the sprinter-like speed. Seeing him blaze through the 40-yard dash at the combine, we knew exactly what the Chiefs were going to use him for. They were going to send him deep, clear out the defense, and open up the rest of the field for their other receivers. While there's a clear role for him in this offense, the one major question mark for Hardman if he's more than just a sprinter. Having a clear out receiver is useful, but the question still remained if Hardman could develop into something more. From my film study, his development and steady improvement in understanding the finer nuances of route running is why I think that answer is yes. Based on how much he improved over the course of the season, I think he's only going to keep on getting better. Let's start this breakdown by looking at a few examples from earlier in the season so that we can see what his development looked like. To start, Hardman had a very simplified role in this offense throughout most of his rookie campaign. He was a clear-out receiver for the vast majority of his snaps. He ran fade routes up the sideline to pull the defense deep. Additionally, he was also used on end-arounds, hitches by the sideline as an outlet-first quarterback, and on screens to get the ball in his hands. In Week 2 against the Raiders, he caught his first touchdown on a post route. The Raiders were playing cover 2 invert with 2 deep defenders. Since it was 3rd and 20, the outside defensive backs were playing deep while the players inside of them were sitting at the sticks to protect against a throw at the first down. With the separation of the defenders on the left, Hardman stemmed his route outside to threaten the defense towards the sideline. Once he baited the safety, he put his foot in the ground and broke deep on his post. The free safety, Riley Curtis, was caught flat-footed in open space. He didn't want to leave Hardman open on a potential out route, so he waited too long to flip his hips and turn. This is why he couldn't recover and why Hardman was open for the 42-yard score. Blazing speed, just like he showed in that last play, is something Hardman used all season. The term speed kills is the one thing I kept writing down in my notes regarding to most of his plays. Hardman relies on that speed to win. The problem you run into is that when pure speed is your only weapon, it can also be pretty predictable. You need to add deception to your releases and stems. The lack of nuanced route running will instantly limit your upside. Check out this play in the same game against the Raiders. He's running a fade route from the slot. After rushing through his release, Hardman stemmed his route outside towards the numbers. Since he didn't initially square up to his target, he never established the two-way go needed in order to create the initial hesitation. Then once Hardman finished that release, he took a wide track from 2 yards inside the numbers to outside the numbers, allowing his defender to flip his hips and turn with him on his route. His defender, Lamarcus Joyner, ran a 4.55 at the combine. Hardman, on the other hand, ran a 4.33. There's no question that Hardman should have the edge on a fade. However, that's not what happened here. The release didn't threaten the two-way go initially, and due to his wide track, it allowed Joyner to instantly recover. This is why there was no separation on this play. What would help Hardman is that by the time he hits the 50-yard marker, he needs to add some level of horizontal or vertical deception to his release. If he stuttered here, even just for a moment, or squared up initially threatening the inside release in the first place, this could have allowed him to beat Joyner. Just imagine how the defender would have reacted if he did either. Instead, since Hardman did none of these things, Joyner was able to turn and sprint in order to catch him on this play. Stems were a big problem for a large portion of Hardman's season. The other thing I noticed after going through his film was that Hardman doesn't always fully attack a defender's opposite shoulder off the line of scrimmage. I alluded to this in the last play, but creating that two-way go is so critical for a receiver. Hardman is unfortunately not there in this ability. Him not having this down is what makes winning on his routes, especially deep, more difficult. Take the seam route against the Jaguars back in Week 1. Hardman is lining up in the right slot against DJ Hayden. Hayden is playing man coverage while lining up initially in outside leverage. After the snap, Hardman released straight at his defender. This is correct and what you're supposed to do against a cornerback playing a man coverage technique called catch coverage. Hayden is waiting there to catch him and funnel him towards his help. In this technique, Hayden is also right for Hardman to use his elusiveness and his footwork to create an opening back inside. However, Hardman never fully established the two-way go in his release, not fully committing to his fake. He never fully leans his body to attack Hayden's outside shoulder before he breaks back inside. You can see that he slammed both of his feet down, but his outside foot and body language are barely threatening the outside release. This is why he never got Hayden to bite on his initial stem. Since Hayden never bit on that part of his route, he can just turn and extend his hand to slow him down to cover him on this play. Like I said before, creating deception on stems and releases and that initial two-way go will be everything for Hardman's development. We all know that he has the speed to win in a straight line, especially against busted coverages or even downfield against a flat-footed safety. That's never been Hardman's problem. It's the initial 5 yards of his routes where he needs to get better at creating separation. Before we move on and break down how Hardman improved throughout the 2019 season, I wanted to thank Manscaped.com for being the sponsor of this week's video. If you're a hairy guy and you deal with, an uncomfortable amount of hair all over your body, look no further than Manscaped. Their Perfect Package 3.0 kit has all the tools you need to keep your family jewels clean. This kit includes the new Lawnmower 3.0 trimmer, which is the only trimmer on the market with advanced skin-safe technology. This helps reduce nicks and cuts from all your manscaping accidents. Plus, it's water-resistant, which makes it perfect for use in the shower. When you purchase this kit at manscaped.com, you'll also get a replacement blade refill for this trimmer delivered to your door every 3 months. In addition to this trimmer, this kit includes the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and the Crop Reviver Toning Spray. Plus, for a limited time only, and if you use my promo code SAMGOLD, you get 20% off your order, free shipping, and 2 free gifts: the Shed Travel Bag and the Manscaped Anti-Shaving Boxer Briefs. This is a great deal exclusive to this channel, so make sure you check it out. As I mentioned earlier, Hardman definitely improved as the season went on. Let's fast forward to later in the year so I can show you a few of those examples. One of the things that I pointed out earlier, the adjustments to his stems to create separation, is something that Hardman has clearly been working on. Versus the Patriots in Week 14, Hardman had one of my favorite plays from him all season long. The Chiefs were in shotgun with Hardman lining up in the slot on the left. The Patriots had a single high safety and were playing cover 1 plug. This is a man coverage defense across the board while the linebacker drops over the middle looking for crossers. On this play, Hardman ran a corner route. Watch closely how he stemmed his route. After the snap, Hardman used a stutter step move to set up his inside release. While he didn't initially win off the line of scrimmage, he was still able to fend off his defender's hand that was trying to slow him down. As he ran down the field, he stemmed inside while simultaneously peeking back towards his quarterback in order to bait his defender. This is how he's able to create separation. Since his defender feared that he was going to get beat inside, he lunged forward, losing balance, all while still trying to maintain his contact. Hardman used this to his advantage. He broke cleanly back outside and gained separation out by the numbers. Mahomes was under pressure, so the ball was placed a bit short, but Hardman was still able to adjust to the throw. He then slipped the initial tackle and cut back towards the center of the field, beating the safety for the touchdown. This was an awesome route, and it was due to the initial deception on his stem that Hardman was able to score on this one. Here's another play that happened at the end of the season in the Super Bowl. Hardman wasn't targeted on this one, but he still ran a good route. Lining up in a plus split, he ran a dig versus Richard Sherman. Based on Hardman's initial alignment, Sherman probably assumed he was going to run a fade at the sideline. Hardman released off the line of scrimmage pretending he was going to run that route. He widened his route towards the sideline initially. He then accelerated at the top of his route and dropped his hips to cut back inside. If Mahomes wasn't under crazy pressure from the start, there's a very good chance that Hardman would have been targeted for a decent gain on this one. As I kept going through Hardman's film looking for examples to show in this video, the other thing that kept standing out to me was just how much better Hardman was at running routes of the slot than he was from running routes from the outside. During the 2019 season, Hardman lined up evenly as both an outside and as a slot receiver. The difference in performance between these two roles was startling. Hardman created 2.7 yards per route run out of the slot, while he only created 1 yard per route run when he lined up outside. If you look across the NFL and how this compares for receivers with more than 50 snaps lining up in the slot, Hardman was ranked 4th out of over 100 receivers. For reference, the wide receivers that he's compared with, at least in this metric, are guys like Michael Thomas, Devontae Adams, and Julio Jones. Now obviously nobody is saying Hardman is as good as those receivers, but the point still stands. Hardman is drastically better running out of the slot. This difference also shows up on his film. His route tree is more varied and he can use his entire skill set. This, in my opinion, will also give him more opportunities to make plays. One of his biggest of the season came against the Titans in Week 10. He broke free on his 63-yard touchdown. What I like about this play is that it shows just how dangerous Hardman is in space with the ball in his hands. It also shows what his potential is if the Chiefs give him more opportunities to line up inside. The deep hitch route over the ball is a staple of this offense. Mahomes loves to look for it, especially under duress. I love Hardman's tracking ability, and plays like this show me that he needs more opportunities inside in order to get the most out of them. I really hope Andy Reid gives him that chance next season. Now, a moment ago, I mentioned yards per route run, which is a Pro Football Focus metric, and it's one of my favorite advanced stats for evaluating wide receivers. While we've mainly been talking about route running and his role in this offense, let's get a bit nerdy and talk more about how he projects next season. Last year, Hardman gained an average of 1.84 yards per route run when you look at all of his routes. What this means is that Hardman was extremely efficient in this offense. Graphing that production versus his targets, you can see that he was well above average in this metric. This alone is very promising. What's even more promising is that you can then look at how receivers performed in this metric from year 1 to year 2. This next graph on your screen shows us that, and the higher you were in year 1, the more likely you're able to match that in year 2. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to this rule. I'm looking straight at you, Devin Funchess. But for the majority, if you start high, you end up high the following season. The next thing we can do is we can take all these data points and graph them based on the normal distribution. And yes, I actually did that for this video. What I discovered was that there's roughly a 75% chance that Hardman will gain at least 1.5 yards per route run next season. Now, why is 1.5 important? The reason is that 1.5 is the average across the NFL over the past few seasons. This means that more likely than not, Hardman will be at least above average in this metric, and this shows us his overall playmaking ability. He needs to be more involved in this offense. Overall, it's very easy to like a guy like Mecole Hardman. His speed, having Patrick Mahomes as his quarterback, all in Andy Reid's offense is a lot to like. With that alone, you can argue that he has the ability to create big plays. But it's more than those things when you talk about him as a player. It's more than just speed and quarterback play. It's his development and his stems that I really like to see. He was more deceptive with those throughout the season, becoming more than just a sprinter in this offense. I mentioned releases, and that's still a big area he needs to work on. This was still the case by the end of the season. In my opinion, once he gets those down, he'll be a very dangerous weapon on this team. The way I see it is that the Chiefs need to line up in the slot, as I mentioned earlier. They need to give him the opportunity to win over the middle, and I think Hardman can become a bigger factor. Expect his usage to continue to grow, and expect him to become the impact player that the Chiefs saw when they drafted him in the second round in the first place. Well, that's all I have for you in this one. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to my channel. Also, if you support me on my Patreon, my fantasy rankings are now available in the link below. If you want access, all it takes is just a $1 donation, and I'll gladly update those rankings all summer long. Until next time, you can follow me on Twitter for my latest updates at Samuel R. Gold.